Over the years, and this is, through my decade and more in television, I slowly got it, probably a lot slower than other people. And it's what led me to start a video production business with my wife, Megan, 7 years ago. It's that if you're not gonna be like a relentless self-promoter of yourself, or especially your business, no one's gonna do it for you.
Welcome to the Storycraft Podcast for professional storytellers. I'm your host, Kyle Adams, and I'm here to help you explore how stories shape our connections. Wondering how stories help you network and advance? Looking to bridge online and face-to-face worlds? Foster understanding and ignite innovation? Look no further. Whether you're a leader, communicator, educator, or just love a good story, join us for actionable insights, all aimed at helping you build stronger, better connections. We're glad you're here.
So when I started in television back in 2007, so quite a while ago, I don't know how to say this because I've thought about this and I know that the camera's rolling right now, but I had a real aversion, almost like a disdain for people, and this is just being honest, who were always showing up on my social media feeds promoting themselves, egotistical self-promoter, blah, blah, blah. How they're so vain, they're so full of themselves. That's how I felt when I first got into television, and I was, kind of into that world, right? Where people were in the spotlight, and I just didn't understand it at first. And over the years, and this is, through my decade and more in television, I slowly got it, probably a lot slower than other people. And it's what led me to start a video production business with my wife, Megan, 7 years ago. It's that if you're not gonna be like a relentless self-promoter of yourself, or especially your business, no one's gonna do it for you. It took me a long, long time to figure that out. And Megan's laughing behind the camera. And I still wrestle with this a little bit, but just like the law of gravity, the best people that we've worked with over the course of almost a decade now in helping people tell their stories, there is something that is true as true can be, and it's the people that generally, and we're talking about business owners here, but this can be brands, this can be, just personally if you want. But the people who are the most successful, and I say that in air quotes if you're not watching this, because successful is obviously objective, but subjective, wrong word, English major behind the camera. So, yeah, success is subjective, of course, but the people who are, in my opinion, the most successful with their business, the ones that we've worked with, are the ones who are not afraid to step in front of a camera. It's really that simple. They're the ones who are not afraid to get in front of a camera and just talk about their business, talk about what they're interested in, talk about what they're donating to, talk about what their newest products are, talk about their newest food items, talk about their newest medical device, whatever that is. It's the people that when we come to them with an idea, I'm like, hey, why don't we try it? And they're like, yep, let's do it. You have to, as a business owner, be a relentless self-promoter. It sounds egotistical, but it's really not, because if you don't do it for yourself, nobody will. Most of the time. There are people that, you build up a big enough following, people will advocate for you. But generally I'm talking about small businesses, right? Because obviously there's advocates for, I still have an Android phone. And there are masses of people out there that are like, why the heck don't you have an iPhone yet, Kyle? Why don't you have an iPhone? Why don't you have an iPhone? And that's for another podcast. But obviously in those situations where you're talking about a giant corporation like Apple, there are advocates that are not doing it, they have their own brand ambassadors. All right, Megan just helped me there. But that's an example, right? But for small businesses, typically that's not the case. And it can be as you grow your presence and you grow your online, your digital presence, but how do you get there? You are a relentless self-advocate to start. And you have to continue to be a relentless self-advocate. And that means you can't be afraid to get in front of a camera and be that for yourself. That doesn't mean that you have to have a professional, video production team like what we do at Home Place Creative come in and do this for you. It's really as easy as buying a tripod and putting your phone on it or some sort of gimbal or whatever that might be, setting it down and getting maybe a nice microphone and talking and record. That's really about it. So that is one thing that I have learned for sure in my years in front of and behind a camera.
Love what you're hearing on this podcast? Consider booking me to speak at your next event. Dive further into the transformative power of storytelling with my keynote. Tell better stories, speak up, stand out, and build community. In a world that often amplifies our differences, my talk invites you to embrace genuine connections. Break free from the echo chambers and discover the art of storytelling. Learn how to share your own narrative, listen actively, and foster communities that flourish on shared experiences. Check out the show notes to learn more about how to book a talk for your next event.
And of course, there are business owners out there that just, they're just not, there are people that just don't want to be in front of a camera. And that's fine, right? Like, you don't have to be forced to be in front of a camera. But if you truly believe in what it is that your business represents or what it is that you're buying or selling, it makes it a lot easier. And also, one of the things that I think of a lot, and I thought about this a lot when I was on television talking about the weather, like I love the weather. I love talking about the weather. I love talking about telling stories and stuff like this. So it's easy for me to talk about that because I know a lot about it. So if you can imagine, if you're representing your business and you may not be, super thrilled about getting in front of a camera and talking or promoting yourself, you have to realize, and I've talked about this before, you have to realize that people don't know what they don't know. And there's always going to be somebody out there that hears what you have to say that has never heard it before. And as many times as I've said this, what I'm saying right now, I know that I've probably said it in at least half a dozen or more than a dozen times in different podcasts or different videos that I've done. And it's that people, they don't know what they don't know. And you can't be afraid to tell people something that you may think is common knowledge. That is, I think, one of the keys to getting in front of a camera and knowing that it's going to impact somebody in a good way because they've probably never heard that advice before. So whatever that might be. So if you're representing your business and you have a new product or you have something new and you want to tell people about it, chances are there is going to be at least one person that hears it that you've never told, that has never heard that message from you before. So I always keep that in the back of my mind, and that applied to weather when I would talk about high pressure spinning clockwise for the 95th time in, the summer, right? And Megan still doesn't know which way high pressure spins, right? It spins clockwise. But I say that to say that it takes time. And any marketer that is worth their salt, that term really makes me sound old. But any marketer who's worth their salt knows that you can't just say a message one time and hope people digest it. You have to say it over and over and over again. Like you have a 3-year-old kid who you keep telling to go clean their room, go clean your room, go clean your... It takes like 10 times, parents, am I right, to get that sink into their head. It's the same thing with a message. And if you, as a business owner or a professional, know that, you kind of have to treat it the same way. You're not assuming that people are dumb. You're just assuming that people have short attention spans, which is absolutely the truth because we're all inundated with tons of information. So you can't be afraid to say something over and over again. And for that matter, knowing that when you say it over and over again, it's eventually going to reach your audience. So that would be my that'd be my first tip for somebody who may be a little cautious or apprehensive to get in front of the camera. And then once you get in front of the camera, the other tip is to not script out what you want to say. It's to just have bullet points and just talk from the heart, because people know the difference between talking from the heart and something that's scripted. And generally speaking, I think when it's scripted, it comes off as fake. Not all the time, but I think people have a pretty good radar for that type of thing, to use a weather term. So with that in mind, be a relentless self-advocate for your business, for your brand, whatever that might be. And then always know that whenever you're being that relentless self-advocate for your business or your brand, that somebody out there, each time you say it, usually is going to be hearing it for the first time.
We're glad you've listened to this podcast episode. If you liked it, would you mind doing us a favor and sharing this episode with someone who would be interested in the topic too? We're on a mission to help everyone become a better storyteller. Don't forget to subscribe to the show and get updated every time we release a new episode too. Each and every episode is produced, hosted, and edited by us, Kyle and Meg Adams at Home Place Creative. Happy storytelling.